call to order the June 16th, 2022 meeting of the Santa Barbara Harbor Commission. We'll start with a roll call.
Commissioner Anderson?
Here.
Commissioner Kramer? Commissioner Hanrahan?
Here.
Commissioner Nelson? Here. Commissioner Stanwyck?
Here.
Commissioner Stedman?
Here.
Chair McCray?
Here.
Thank you.
Are there any changes to the agenda this evening?
Chair McRae, no changes tonight.
Thank you. And do we have any general public comment on items that are not already on the agenda this evening?
I don't have any speaker slips for general public comment, and I don't have any hands raised in Zoom right now, but I'd like to remind anyone watching through Zoom that if they'd like to speak, they can indicate that by raising their hand, and I will call on them when it's their turn. Still no hands.
All right, so I guess that ends general public comment. We have one item on our consent calendar, the approval of the minutes from our last meeting. And I would entertain a motion that we approve those without them being read.
Motion to approve the minutes?
Second?
Moved and seconded. Would you,
Of course. Commissioner Anderson?
Agree.
Commissioner Kramer? Yes. Commissioner Hanrahan?
Agree.
Commissioner Nelson? Agree. Commissioner Stanwyck?
Yes.
Commissioner Stedman?
Aye.
Chair McCray?
aye.
Unanimous. Thank you.
All right, so that brings us to the department update, and we'll start with the director's report.
Don't jump the gun. All right, well, good evening, Harbor Commission, and anyone tuned in. I'm Mike Wiltshire, the Waterfront Director. I did want to remind anybody here and Harbor Commission that this is a virtual meeting, so in addition to people in present, we're also broadcasting online and taking comments online. Kind of a bittersweet meeting tonight, but next slide. So some major staffing changes at the Waterfront Department. We're going to be losing our business manager, Mr. Brian Bossy. He's been with the Waterfront for over 10 years. I can attest, I've worked with him the last couple years, and he's just been a real pleasure to work with, and has kind of always put the Waterfront at the front of his priorities. So he'll be remaining with the city, but going to Public Works as their new downtown team manager. I know he'll add a huge amount of value and just be great with his new team, but certainly creates a hole in our department. And congratulations, Brian, but you'll be definitely missed by staff, and I'm sure Harbor Commission as well.
Congratulations, Brian.
Very much, congrats.
Next slide. Keep your moment in the sun. And with that, I'd also like to introduce Cesar Barrios. He's here with us today. He is currently our parking supervisor. He's been with the Waterfront for over 20 years. Cesar's agreed to act in kind of both roles, so act as our business manager while we're undergoing a recruitment. I anticipate the recruitment will take 2 to 3 months, probably fall sometime is reasonable to think that we'll wrap that recruitment up. So huge kudos to Cesar. He just brings a huge amount of experience to the department. He has a really good understanding of our operations, not only parking, but all of our tenants. Excellent customer service, really good with all of his staff. So just a really great person to step in. So thank you, Cesar, for stepping in and wearing 2 hats for a little while.
Well, thank you. Do we have any questions from the commission on this particular item? Brian, would you like to say a few words?
Oh, wow. It is bittersweet. I'm excited, but I want to thank you all for all the work you do. It doesn't go unnoticed by our staff. We really appreciate you folks digging in and showing up here every month. It's not a lucrative position, but it is an important one, and we appreciate you looking out for not only the Waterfront as a whole, but the community as a whole as well. And it's been a pleasure working for the Waterfront for 10 years. I'm kind of coming full circle. Before that, I was with the redevelopment agency for about 13, so I'm kind of going back to that. at least that same building. Excited, but you've got a wonderful staff here. They work hard each and every day, and that's from facilities to harbor patrol to parking to accounting to admin and everybody in between. It's been a pleasure working with Mike. He's brought a breath of fresh air into the department when it was sorely needed, and he's got it headed in a very good direction. And with you all up on the dais, I think it'll continue to go that way. It's a great place to work. It's never the same. There's a lot of characters, all staff included. So it's been a pleasure. So thank you all. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. You've taken very good care of us and kept us well-informed and pointed in the right direction. Do we have any public comment?
We do have one person who'd like to speak, Miss Jamie Diamond.
Good evening, Commissioners, Chair McCray, Commissioners. I'm here on behalf of Santa Barbara Landing to say thank you so much to Mr. Bossy for his service to the waterfront and everything he's done for us pre-Santa Barbara Landing existing. Each of our businesses individually have reached out to him for different things. He's always been there, available to help and give guidance, and we really appreciate everything he's done for all of us. So we want to say congratulations. We're really going to miss you, and welcome to Caesar. We're excited to have that relationship move into a new area, at least for the time being. Who knows, maybe longer. But yeah, we really wanted to come here and let you all know how much we appreciate the staff at the waterfront, but especially since Brian's on his way out, we just wanted to take the time to do that. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Diamond. So that brings us to discussion on this item. Is there anything, you don't want to say congratulations? Congratulations again.
Yes, congratulations, Mr. Bossy, and welcome, Mr. Barrios. Thank you for filling in the absence of Mr. Bossy, or in the moving on of Mr. Bossy. Thank you.
I have a quick question. Brian, are you going to work in a department where you're going to interact with a commission, another commission?
Chair McCray, Commissioner Stedman, yes, numerous. Primarily downtown parking, as well as the Transportation and Circulation Committee, and then City Council on a regular basis as well. I'll be running the Public Works downtown team, which is downtown parking, transportation planning, and then managing and all the activity kind of on State Street, the maintenance and operation of the promenade. So
Keep those fire lanes open.
Commissioner Anderson,
Oh, sorry.
just watching along. Sorry.
Congratulations for sure. I've thumbs up multiple times, but that light was on by air.
All right. What's next on our agenda?
No, I think I've got one more little item. Yeah.
Or do you?
Just our usual reminder for tentative agendas items coming up. So a quick reminder that we will be having a meeting in July, but we're going to be canceling our August meeting for summer break. So we'll be back here in a month, but then we'll be taking August off. Another thing to keep in mind is typically we elect a new chair and vice chair at the July meeting. So that will be next meeting. That's an action of the Harbor Commission. So you guys can think about that between now and then. Mr. Engbretson will be back. He'll be giving an update on the Clean Marina program. We really do pride ourselves on the Clean Marina program, and so it's a good chance to highlight that and show all the good work that's done. So there'll be a more in-depth presentation on that. A couple of the bigger things that we've touched on recently, so an insurance requirement for vessels. I know we spoke about that last meeting, but you've tasked staff to kind of look more into that and bring that back. So that's probably going to be a longer ongoing discussion with Harbor Commission. And same goes for commercial fishing and cruise ships. We'll likely kind of deal with those over the coming months and even the year. So some things to look forward to. And with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Bossy for his last business services report.
good evening, Harbor Commissioners. A very brief business services report. I just wanted to, this is kind of a shameless plug for our auto pay program down at the waterfront. If you want to make your bill paying easier, this is definitely the way to do it. Our auto pay service, participants receive monthly statements, just like everybody else. And on the 15th, their checking account is debited. There's no charge from the city to participate in this program. Currently, we have approximately 640 slip permittees participating in the program, and we have about 10 of our tenants. So all you got to do is sign up, and it makes life a whole lot easier for everybody to never have to worry about late charges, which again go up on July 1 from $35 to $50. So this is a nice way to avoid that. AutoPay offers a convenient, hassle-free way to pay your monthly slip fees. We encourage everybody to participate in this program. If you have any questions, you can call the front office at 805-564-5530. Again, 564-5530, or you can hop on our website and do some research for yourself and just see how easy that is. So that is our business services report for this month, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Excuse me, do we have any questions? Very well. Public comment on this item?
I don't have any speaker slips, and there's nobody with their hand raised on Zoom at this time.
All right, we'll conclude public comment on that item, and that brings us to the facilities management report. And we're looking at Brian Adair.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Brian Dare, Facilities Manager for the Waterfront. I'm just here this evening to say that sometimes special things are in small packages and large packages, and this is one of those special things that, with the support of Mike Wiltshire, we've installed a community boat lending library, and you find these very common in the neighborhoods, and creates a positive self-managed addition to the harbor. And so our maintenance staff had used some creative time to build one for us that's unique for our setting. And it will remain in place as long as there's no major issues, or if it is abused or causes a nuisance, it will be removed. So this is a picture of one of our great maintenance people. His name is Dustin. He designed and built this book library. And it's a little bit hard to see, but on the right side is our Harbor Commission building. Our Harbor Master building, 132 Harbor Way, and there's a little red arrow. So it's on the north side of the Harbor Master building. I just want to give some good news that we will be starting, or we have started, our renovation of our Marina 2 restroom. This is the first major renovation since it was initially constructed in 1982. This construction will include, our primary purpose is to be ADA compliant. So it will include hardware, new flooring, new wall finishes, a new space heater, and also to create more space, we're relocating the electrical switchgear for Marina 2, which is inside the building. So we're going to relocate that outside to create more space inside so we can be compliant with ADA. This project was awarded to MDJ Management for $421,213. The construction will probably take about 60 days, so we're anticipating it will be completed in August. This building on the west side has a small room that's used for collecting dirty waste oil and dirty filters and oil absorbent. That little part of the building will stay and remain open for service during construction. This is a photo of Marina 2 restroom from the outside and the men's restroom on the inside. So if I report on it again, I'll give you a photo of the before and after. Any questions for this evening?
Yes, Adam Stanwyck.
Oh, yeah, just a comment, yeah, regarding the book library. This is the first time I've heard of it. I think it's a fantastic idea. I know by the Marina One East bathrooms, there's kind of like an unofficial book exchange there for quite some time. I've picked up some great stuff there, but the problem is by the end of the day, if it's still there, it's usually thrown out. So I think it's a great idea that the waterfront's putting this in, and I think it'll be well received by the community. So thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Further excuse me, further questions? All right, do we have any public comment on this item?
No, there's no speakers at this time.
So I guess that concludes public comment on that item. Is there further discussion? And that moves us on to the harbor operations report.
Yeah, and for the commission, just sort of a new face as well. Eric Ambrettson's out on vacation, so Nathan Aldridge, our Harbor Patrol supervisor, is filling in for him. So good chance for to put a face to the name.
Welcome, Nathan. Good to see you.
Thank you, and good evening, the commissioners. As Mr. Wilkshire said, my name is Nathan Aldridge. I'm the Harbor Patrol Supervisor. Eric Ingebretson could not be with us this evening, so I will be presenting his report. This year's Nautical Swap Meet welcomed over 30 vendors from Santa Barbara and across the state. 100 of visitors of the free event discovered deals on everything nautical, including surfboards, stand-up paddle boards, wetsuits, anchors, lines, fenders, fishing gear, and ocean-themed art. While the most popular items sold were new and used rods and reels, the most frequent things swapped were fish tails. The event hasn't been held since 2019 due to COVID, so vendors and visitors alike were grateful for the opportunity to see familiar faces and share in a love of the ocean. Coffee was provided by the Waterfront Department, and donuts were provided by the Boat Launch Mini Mart. Proceeds from the Nautical Swap Meet go to the Harbor Merchants Association. Next, the Jellyfish Bot comes to Santa Barbara Harbor. The French company, Interactive Autonomous Dynamic Systems, visited Santa Barbara Harbor recently and provided a demonstration to the Waterfront Department staff of their sea trash eating Jellyfish Bot. The Jellyfish Bot is a remote-operated vehicle capable of collecting various types of waste and petroleum products from relatively sheltered waters, marinas, and lakes. The company recently attended the Waste Expo in Las Vegas, and while traveling the West Coast, also reached out to various clean marina ports between San Diego and San Francisco to demonstrate their product. So to give you an idea of the operation, is a short video clip. And finally, Harbor Patrol Law Enforcement Torch Run. Known as Guardians of the Flame, on June 6th of this month, Harbor Patrol participated in a law enforcement torch run for the Special Olympics. Law enforcement members and Special Olympics athletes carry the Flame of Hope into opening ceremonies of the local competitions. They also carry it into Special Olympics state, provisional, national, regional, and world games. There are over 97,000 enforcement members that carry the Flame of Hope annually. The flame symbolizes courage and celebration of diversity, uniting communities across the globe. The torch run has grown over the years and now includes many fundraising platforms. These platforms include plane pulls, polar plunges, tip-a-cop events, and more. Since the beginning, LETR has raised over $600 million for Special Olympics programs. As retired Chief Richard Lemonnier, founder, once said, "What started in 1981 as a flicker of hope for Special Olympics has now become a roaring flame of stability for Special Olympics athletes worldwide." And featured in this picture, Officer Rick Hubbard on the left, in the center carrying the flag, Officer Anthony Lombardi, and our newest officer carrying the torch on the right, Stella Nicodemus.
Commissioner Kramer.
Yeah, thank you for your report. I have a question on the jellyfish bot. I noticed that it said it can deploy booms. Does that mean it could be used in a small oil spill, and how would it work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the indication of what we saw, sort of one of their prototype vessels, they said that through extensive production, it may be able to carry extensive pieces of boom that could address larger oil spills. They didn't have that in the demonstration, but the inventors and the founders of the company were confident that, you know, with their various prototypes and the sort of investment money that they have, they will be able to use that for larger spills in the future.
Fantastic. And do you expect to be getting these things?
Yeah, the company reached out initially to our public information officer, Chris Bell, and through several emails, the timing worked out where the two gentlemen were able to come down to the harbor and demonstrate to sort of spread awareness, I think, of their product. And you know, the aim is to keep in touch, and if they start to distribute this in a more wide-scale form, it's something as, you know, a harbor with a commitment to, you know, ensuring our clean marina status, and we'd definitely look into something like that.
Would you rent them or own them or what?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think for them, initially, they would try to sell certain of these products to different marinas to have as part of an oil spill response. You know, there are also applications for sort of trash pickups in certain areas where there are eddies and marinas and slips as well, with, you know, kelp and debris. So it can be used in sort of a large-scale sort of you know, incident response, but also sort of, I think, in a day-to-day harbor maintenance way.
Sounds great. Much needed.
Yeah, agreed.
Thanks.
Looking for further questions? Yes, go right ahead.
What is the scale of that bot? Like, is
You're
it-
talking about size.
Yeah,
Yeah, let me see if I can go back to give an indication. So if you look at the top left picture, that's one of the founders of the company
oh,
holding
so it's
up.
very small.
Yeah, it's, I would say about 2.5 feet or so by 2.5 feet. It's a little bit unwieldy and heavy. Unsure as to whether they're going to scale that out for larger sizes. But the indication was that that technology is there, and I think it just has to do with sort of production and if they're willing and able to sort of scale that out in a larger size as well.
Got it. Thank you.
Great, that was actually a question I was going to ask, and I'd like to dive into it a little bit further, but I'm looking around the dais. All right, diving in. So it looks like there's potential to scale that up potentially to whatever the proper size is. At that scale, how many of them do you think it would take to actually do the job for our harbor?
That's a great question. If you're referring to debris cleanup in the marinas, I think, this is just sort of my personal opinion, sort of off the cuff right now, having 4 or 5, you know, one per marina, maybe with a backup just in case one went down, seems like a smart idea. They seem to be, you know, easily deployed via that remote control, and so you can operate them either from a vessel or from the docks, which is nice and convenient. I don't know the range, so you may have to stay within, you know, 50 feet or so of the ROV to let it communicate with the remote. But you know, it's something that, you know, if the commission and if our department is interested in looking into more, I'm sure that both of the individuals are, you know, very, very gregarious, friendly, interested in, you know, talking about their product. I'm sure that, you know, they would be able to come and give a presentation, you know, if they're back stateside as well.
Oh, so it actually takes an operator to run the thing. My next question was about how good it was at avoidance. I just kind of assumed that
That is correct,
it's
yeah.
autonomous.
The bottom left picture and the bottom right. The bottom right, you can see Officer Hubbard operating the remote. I'm sure if you're angle, you can see that. In the bottom left is the engineer operating it as well.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so I believe that brings us to new business. And what's first on our list?
It's item number 6, Santa Barbara Deepwater Diving Monument at the harbor.
And Chair McCray, Harbor Commissioners, I just wanted to take a minute and speak to Don a little bit. I wanted to introduce Don Barthelmess. He's had a long history with Santa Barbara City College, Marine Tech program, just a huge amount of history here locally with deepwater diving. He's worked with the Maritime Museum and the Historical Dive Society. I've been working with Don for the last couple months on the project that he's about to present today, and so this was kind of more of a informational and sort of a first look at something that could be really quite neat for the waterfront. So Don, I'll turn it over to you.
Great.
Welcome.
Thank you, Chair McRae and honorable commissioners and Director Wiltshire. I'm pleased to be here to explain to you about what we've been up to for the past 8 months working with this Deepwater Diving Monument Group. There's currently 4 of us involved, and I'll kind of walk you through it here, but there's a artist rendition of the monument that we're proposing to install as a gift to the city of Santa Barbara to honor its unique place in history as the birthplace of deepwater diving. Many residents do not know that the roots of deepwater diving are firmly embedded right here in Santa Barbara. That's where mixed gas diving was developed by the abalone divers from the 50s and 60s and evolved into the equipment and the training and the manufacturing of all the deep sea diving gear that is used by over 90% of the world's navies. And I've heard figures that 80% of the deepwater divers today are using the Superlight 17 helmets, which were made over on 425 Gordon Street, just around the corner, Bob Kirby and Bev Morgan. So anyway, next slide, we'll walk through this here. I am working currently with a group of 4 individuals for the past 8 months. Myself, Leslie Laney, who is the founder of Historical Diving Society, and Paul Guyver, Commander Paul Guyver and Tony Sexton, who've actually done this 2 times before, once for the U.S. Navy down in Panama City, Florida, at the Naval Deep Sea Training Center there. And they are also currently doing one in England. And Paul and Tony live in England. They obviously couldn't be here with us tonight, but we did present to the Arts Advisory Committee last month and received unanimous approval for the monument. So next slide, please. A little bit about myself. As Mike just mentioned, I'm a retired professor of the Marine Tech program at City College. I was there for 30 years, department chair for 10 years. I was on the board of the Maritime Museum and worked with Brian quite a bit. And congratulations, Brian. Did a heck of a job down there in the harbor for us. Really appreciate your efforts. But I finished my term as president, so this is my next project. So I'm also past president of Historical Diving Society, so the diving history is really something that I'm really passionate about it, so that's why I jumped in with both feet for this volunteer project. Next slide, please. Leslie Laney, who couldn't be here, he's traveling tonight. He is the co-founder of the Historical Diving Society here in Santa Barbara some 30 years ago, and he's a founding trustee for the Maritime Museum. So he's also a great guy and a lot of fun to work with, and we've been dreaming about this for about 15, 20 years now. Next slide, please.
Diving community. I mean, you have commercial divers, you have scientific divers, you have underwater photographers like Mike Degree, you have inventors like Bob Evans and Bev Morgan. So you have a tremendously diverse community of people who are involved with the ocean. Really, probably more than any other city that I know of in the United States, if not the world.
When you look at the last century, when you look at the home of commercial diving, you look to Santa Barbara.
little snippet about the local history. Next slide, please. So that, again, is the artist rendition of the monument itself. And we'll get to the size and the details and the sculptor that we've enlisted. But we're laying down clay right now as we speak. Our sculptor is world-renowned. He lives in Simi Valley, and the foundry that we're going to use is down in Los Angeles. Next slide, please. Commander Paul Guyver, him and Tony Sexton, they have started a company that we are working with, and they are going to gift this statue to the city of Santa Barbara, as I said earlier, to recognize Santa Barbara as the birthplace of deepwater diving. So Paul has lots of experience doing this, as Tony does as well. Next slide, please. There is the Mark V, U.S. Navy Mark V helmet, which a lot of people recognize. It was decommissioned back in 1980 and has been replaced with the Superlight 17, which is called the U.S. Navy Mark 21 Mod 0, and that is used by 90% of the world's navies. But that is the monument they installed in Panama City, Florida. It's very frequently visited by visitors to the state of Florida. A lot of photographs, et cetera. Next slide, please. Tony Sexton is a former Royal Navy diver as well as Commander Guyver. So all of us divers speak the same language, and we're all equally passionate about this project. Tony's real expertise is in project management, and he is a real expert at managing projects. Next slide, please. So this is an example of what they're doing in England, the second project they're working on. They've done the U.S. Navy project in 2011. This one is ready to be installed. You can see the clay here. Next slide. The National Arboretum is very similar to Arlington Cemetery in U.S. terms. So it's going to be installed there. Very well received over in the U.K. Next slide. You can see the detail that they have on that's the diver's boot with the lanyards there. So that's the clay. Next slide, please. And here's a little bit about our sculptor, Greg Blentovich, who lives down in Simi Valley, and he has agreed to work on this project, and he's already started. So it's coming along nicely. We're moving through the city approval process. Our application right now is with the Architectural Board of Review. As I mentioned, we've received unanimous approval from Arts Advisory Committee, so we're with Director Wiltshire's help, we've been navigating through the city approval process pretty efficiently so far. So fingers crossed. Next slide. You can see some of Greg's work here, his attention to detail in the next slide. There's obviously the U.S. Navy monument, which I showed earlier. Next slide. And you can see the size of it. It's on a 2-foot pedestal. The statue and sculpture itself is about 8 feet tall. So you're looking at about a 10-foot tall monument, and it's a monumental type of a piece. As I mentioned, Arts Advisory just loved the scale and the detail and the patina. Next slide, please. Greg has also done Abraham Lincoln. Next slide. He's done John Wayne. He doesn't need any introduction. Next slide. He's also done Chief Sitting Bull. Next slide. As well as Ronald Reagan. And he presented that, next slide, down in Simi Valley to Nancy Reagan. So he has a very, very high track record. And as I mentioned, he's hard at work and he's enthusiastic about doing this. He loves the diving projects. Next slide, please. There it is, sitting on the base. The base will be the same that we've done for the prior projects. Next slide. And here's the location. We met with Mike back in August, and initially we were talking about someplace down in the harbor, and Mike came up with this excellent spot, which is right outside the Breakwater Restaurant. I've taken the liberty, being that we know Sherry and Steve DeDecker quite well. We had a cocktail with them down at the yacht club and explained the project, and they absolutely love it. So that little wedge of property there is what we have targeted there to clean that area up. Next slide. And you can see as you drive in, I know you folks have been down the harbor quite a bit, you know exactly what we're talking about. Next slide will show the visibility from cars as people are pulling into the harbor. Next slide. And then you also have your pedestrians on the walkways. So our visitors, our cruise ships, you know, hopefully we're going to be able to drive them down. They hear about this thing and they're going to want to come down, take a picture of it, a photograph, and move that traffic away from State Street and get it down to the harbor. That's really, as a local resident, that's something that I'm passionate about is driving some of those tourist dollars to help fund our waterfront department. Next slide, please. So there's the area, and I believe we've had discussions about the newsstands, which are really not used anymore due to online publications. So quite possibly those can be removed. But that area where there's just some landscaping right now, we would re-landscape that, remove those bushes. Of course, the palm trees are staying. We don't remove palm trees in Santa Barbara, as you guys know. Next slide, please. And it's visible with the great for photographs with the sun rising from east to west, so it faces southwest. Next slide. And at nightfall, there's existing lights right now that light up that area. So there's electric there. You know, Mike did a wonderful job suggesting that spot, and it's really a great location. So the electric is there, and the lights are there existing. Next slide. So next slide will take away the shrubbery and that first area there. We're still in discussions with Waterfront about whether to leave the curbing in place, next slide, or to extend the curbing or leave it flat, since people are likely going to want to walk up to it and take a photograph. So we still haven't got quite that far yet, but next slide. So there's a rendition of showing the curbing. Then we install a footing with a concrete base. Next slide. There's the concrete base, and then we put granite onto it. Next slide. Next slide. There's bills in there. So there's the granite base. The veneers are put onto the side, and then we drill holes into the base in preparation for the monument itself to be lowered and craned in place. Next slide. There's the lighting and the holes drilled into the base. Next slide. And presto, there's our monument to scale. Next slide. We're talking about putting an information board in, you know, to direct people as to why is this important, because people don't know the significance. Well, I'm going to have a nice plaque, which you'll see in a second here, which explains a bit about it. But then we're going to hopefully have QR codes to drive the traffic down. You know, being at the Maritime Museum, at the information kiosk there, the number one question we get all the time is, where's Brophy's? It's that way. So yeah, we're going to have some information, QR codes, drive traffic, Maritime Museum, restaurants, et cetera, out to the breakwater. Next slide, please. The size, next slide. 2-foot tall base, as I mentioned, 8-foot tall diver, 10-foot tall sculpture, and you can see there's a human standing next to it. Next slide. And there again is Paul standing next to the Mark V monument. You know, it's a flat area. There's all the U.S. Navy sailors. They had over 600 people for a black tie event when they had the opening for this event. So anyway, next slide. That is the plaque that commemorates Santa Barbara as the birthplace of deepwater diving, to honor the pioneering divers and entrepreneurs locally and worldwide that developed the technology and techniques to explore and preserve underwater resources. You know, I taught at City College for 30 years. I was a diver for 10 years. My entire adult life has been revolving around diving. But as a result of Santa Barbara being the birthplace of deepwater diving, Santa Barbara City College's diving program has been going since 1968. And so the infrastructure for diving is firmly embedded right here in our town. Next slide. I'll take any questions you have. Apologize for running so fast through that.
Betsy?
Thank you for your work, and I do have some questions, but probably more for Director Wiltshire. In terms of city processes of approving this, does it go before the HLC?
Commissioner Kramer, no, it does not. So this area is not in the EPV or the HLC purview. So this will go to the Arts Advisory Commission, which it already has, and they unanimously approved it. It'll go through a cursory review of ABR, Architectural Board Review, and then it'll have to get a building and safety permit for structural and electrical and all that stuff.
Thank you. All right, I was wondering on that. I had a question on the last line of that, and preserve underwater resources. What do you mean by that?
Well, divers will do basically anything underwater. Underwater resources such as surveying kelp beds, all the divers that are out working for Channel Islands National Park are actually graduates of our program. And they will do the underwater videography and monitor the kelp forest, things like that. They will survey sites before any kind of fishing grounds are approved or anything. They're looking for rock outcroppings and things like that, doing transect surveys. Basically, divers will do anything that needs to be done underwater, and it's mostly out of the sight of the general public. Many people don't realize the importance of divers that are well-trained professional divers, like potable water towers. They need to be inspected routinely. The bridges that we drive our cars over, those footings need to be inspected, and a deepwater diver has to do that. So they'll,
Okay.
jack of all trades, yeah.
Great, thank you. So I know if I were walking by, I'd wondering what that, because underwater resources are also fish.
Right,
I mean,
right,
you know,
right. Well, that's really what the, you know, it all started with the abalone divers in the harbor. A gentleman by the name of Dan Wilson, that's, if you go by the Maritime Museum, that Prisma diving bell, that was another project of mine that I did in 2011 to restore. That was built in Santa Barbara, the world's first commercial diver lockout bell. That's it, the big orange thing that's sitting on the patio out there.
great, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Any other questions?
Commissioner Stedman?
Yes, thank you, Don, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I'm just a little curious. I mean, obviously, the diving history for the United States involves a lot of different people.
Right.
From different groups. But you've got 3 Brits, right?
Right.
On this project.
Uh-huh.
And 1 person from the United States, right?
Yeah, Leslie has lived in Santa Barbara for, about 38 years now. He is a diving historian, and Paul and Tony, as I mentioned, they formed a company, Monument Projects Limited. And like I said, the reason we partnered with them, Leslie and I have been talking about doing this for years. The reason we partnered with them is because they have been successful in doing this, you know, twice before. And there's not a lot of people that do this kind of stuff. So that's why. And Paul and Tony, they visit here regularly. They've met with Mike, myself, and Leslie several times. They'll be here in August and again in October.
So I'm inferring that the birthplace for all of this technology is here. I mean, that's clear.
Right.
But really, this technology is international, and it's an international community.
It started here, and it blossomed out worldwide in the 60s. Bob Kirby and Bev Morgan, you know, they designed the helmets here. And Dan Wilson, local abalone diver in 1962. You know, he pioneered mixed gas diving out at Santa Cruz Island, the east end of Santa Cruz Island, did a 400-foot demonstration dive, and then he built the Prisma diving bell. So It started in Santa Barbara. Within 2 years, it went out, like wildfire, overseas to Libya, UK, North Sea, but nobody had ever dove deep with deep water mixed gas in this modern equipment, the lightweight equipment, which was developed here. So yes, it is international, and any diver will recognize that helmet. It's kind of like a Hoover vacuum cleaner, the Kirby Morgan diving helmet, so, yeah.
Thank you
Thanks
for
for
that
that.
perspective.
Anybody else?
Yes, Commissioner Hanrahan.
Thank you, Chair McRae. Great to see you, Don. It's fantastic to have you here tonight in front of the commission. You're a tribute to have in this community for the tremendous work you've done in the diving community. I just wanted to note a comment that I'm fully in support of this tremendous monument. So thank you for you and your partners to bring it to the harbor.
Thank you, Commissioner Hanrahan. Thank you very much for your words. Thank you all, and any other questions?
I have a couple of comments.
Sure.
I think it'd be an honor to be able to have that statue grace our harbor, and I hope others see it in the same way. Great selection of the site. I noted that you can see City College from there. You can see the Maritime Museum. If you look up on the hill, you can probably see Laddie's house.
That's
So
right.
it's really kind of cool. That's a phenomenal slideshow. I'm looking at it, I'm going, oh, that's the inside of deck up there yep, and oh, that's inside City College, right by the,
That's right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then inside the museum. So great slide presentation. I wish you the best. It sounds like you've got great people you're working with. And good luck.
Thank you, Chair McRae. Thank you all so very much. Good luck. Thank you.
All right, so that brings us to our next item, unless there's further discussion. Our public comments.
At this time, I don't have any speaker slips or any hands raised in Zoom. Thank
All
you.
right, so we'll move right along then. We have a couple of, yes. Okay. We have a couple of lease agreements to hear a presentation on. The proposed lease agreement with the Marine Spill Response people. So we are ready.
Okay, sorry, I wasn't sure if, we're good, right? Let's roll. Okay, this first lease agreement is a proposed lease with Marine Spill Response Corporation. There has been an oil spill response presence in Santa Barbara Harbor since 1970, and that was primarily taken up by Clean Seas. However, in 2017, Marine Spill Response Corporation took over for Clean Seas and have been providing oil spill removal and response services since that time. MSRC, as they are known, are currently berthed at the Marina 4B Entai. You can see the Ocean Defender right there, a 65-foot vessel. MSRC is the largest oil spill removal organization in the United States, and they offer oil spill removal services and coverage across the country, not only on land, but in the waters, but also on land. Having MSRC as a waterfront tenant is a benefit to the local community, obviously, up and down the coast, and it's also beneficial in the waterfront department securing annual dredge funding from the federal government. The proposed lease terms, it's a 5-year term at a rate of $2,700 per month. Phew. And annual rent adjustments in accordance with the cost of living increases based on the Consumer Price Index, which this past month was sitting at about 8.9%. Marine Spill Response Corporation uses the space to berth oil spill response vessels. They are considered an ocean-dependent use per the department's 5-year review of uses in the harbor commercial zone. And the Marine Spill Response Corporation lease is an appropriate ocean-dependent use that meets the parameters of the Coastal Land Use Plan. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Commissioner Hammerhand.
Thank you, Chair McRae. It would be I would be interested to get a presentation from the MSRC at a future commission meeting to better understand what it looks like when there's a significant spill, what that process looks like, how quick they are to respond. Just informational. Thank you.
That's a great idea. We'll put that on the future possible topics.
Suppose I'll take that one, hey, Brian?
I'm just creating work for Mike.
Looking around the dais here. I don't see any further questions. Do we have any public comment on this item?
I haven't received any speaker slips, and there's nobody with their hand raised on Zoom.
Very good. And so I'm looking for some discussion on this. All right, so I have a comment with respect to this. I think it's a really good benefit for the harbor to have the Marine Spill Response Corporation's boats that they're in the public eye. I think it really helps people understand that, we're ready for even, the worst kind of eventuality that might happen with respect to oil exploration and further production in the channel. And if anything, I'd like to congratulate staff on making sure that these guys were still interested in having their boats here with us. And with that, I would entertain a motion. So we have before us to recommend this to the City Council for approval.
I'll make the motion.
So moved? And seconded? Any further discussion? Questions for the maker of the motion? All right.
Commissioner Kramer?
Yes?
Commissioner Hanrahan?
Yes.
Commissioner Nelson? Commissioner Stanwyck?
Yes.
Commissioner Stedman?
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Chair McRae.
Yes.
That's unanimous. Thank you.
All right, so that brings us to the, so it passed unanimously, and that brings us to our next item on our list this evening.
It's item number 8, proposed lease agreement with the University of California at Santa Barbara. Recommendation that Harbor Commission review and recommend City Council approval of a 5-year lease agreement with one 5-year option with the Regents of the University of California for a 5,563 square foot of water area located at 139 Cabrillo Boulevard.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. The Regents of the University of California has leased dock space from the city since 1970. Here is their current lease site located off the Rock Groin, just past our neighbors, Santa Barbara Landing. And real quick, just what takes place there. The tenant uses the site only for education, research, and recreational sailing and boating activities that are sponsored by UCSB's Department of Recreation. One neat thing about this program is it not only benefits UCSB students, it goes beyond that. So students enrolled in Westmont College, City College, and other local schools and educational institutions may, with the consent of UCSB, participate in sailing and boating programs conducted on site. So they really open up their doors to the entire community. The proposed lease terms include a 5-year term with one 5-year option. They also are at $2,700 per month, and they also have cost of living increases based on the consumer price index. UCSB uses the space for education, research, and recreational sailing and boating. They are considered an ocean-dependent use per the department's 5-year review of uses in the harbor commercial zone. The proposed UCSB lease is an appropriate ocean-dependent use that meets the parameters of the coastal land use plan, and they are also a tenant in good standing. They're a pleasure to work with, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Yes, Commissioner Hanrahan.
Thank you, Chair McRae. Mr. Bossy, I note that the requested rent for the MSRC for 1,800 square feet of water space is $2,700. And for the University of California with 5,563 feet, the rent is also $2,700. So just curious, why are we requesting the same rent for such a dramatically different in size of property?
Chair McCray, Commissioner Hanrahan, two very different uses. One is an oil spill response, obviously, that we just talked about. The other is more recreational and open to the general public, if you will. So they provide a service to they both provide services to the public. Obviously, UCSB's is a bit different. It's sailing and things of that nature. So they need the dock space for their sailboats and other vessels to house. So it's just completely different uses. So it's structured a bit differently, yeah. Not all our leases go in the same per square foot basis. Office kind of goes with office. These are two different uses, so hence different per square foot basis.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions? All right, I'm looking for public comment.
There's no public comment at this time.
Thank you very much. And then any further discussion? Without any further discussion, is there a motion?
Motion to approve?
I'll second.
It's moved and seconded.
Commissioner Hanrahan?
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson? Commissioner Stanwyck?
Yes.
Commissioner Stedman?
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kramer? Chair McCray?
Yes, and the measure passes unanimously. All right, so that brings us tonight to subcommittee reports, and I'm expecting that we will have a couple this evening. No? All right.
Sure. I have a report, Chair
Yes, go
McCray.
ahead.
Great. So as spokesperson for the Cruise Ship Ad Hoc Committee, I share the following update. Commissioners Anderson, Stedman, and I have met this past month to discuss how best to pursue discrete tasks for this ad hoc committee, and we've identified one currently to create a draft fact sheet concerning visiting cruise ships for public distribution addressing key concerns. We did have a plan to invite Chris Bell to provide the commission with an update at our July meeting, but in further consultation with staff, we're reconsidering that and we'll be moving forward with some other decisions in our next meeting of the Ad Hoc Cruise Ship Committee. Thank you.
Did you want anything put on the agenda for this?
Not currently, thank you, though.
Okay.
We'll follow up with you, Chair McCray, for items that we'd like to put on the July agenda.
Great, thank you very much. Are there any further subcommittee reports?
None from slip assignment.
Very good. Commissioner Stanwyck?
None from budget.
Very good. So that brings us to commission and staff communications.
Harbor Commission Chair McCray, just one more chance to thank Mr. Brian Bossy for all of his support. I really, in thinking about it, it would have taken me a lot more time to get up to speed without him. So it's been great having him here for the last couple years. And then again, thanks Caesar for stepping up. I know it's tough wearing two hats, but really appreciate you doing so when we're short-staffed. So thank you.
Very good. Officer Eldridge, do you think you're ready for those tough questions about the dollars per foot, et cetera? All right, so that, I believe, brings us to adjournment. So I'm looking around for a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to introduce the motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded. So I'll call for a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? You're welcome to stay behind. And the motion passes unanimously. Thank you.